Hi. So, Max is here. The cat. Hi. So like I said in my post today, this isn't supposed to be a formal thing. It's not supposed to be edited or heavily produced. So I'm sitting in front of the heater. Lovely Max is here with the cat. And I am going to read the first chapter of a book every Sunday, a book that I hate, that I love, that I don't really, whatever. Just to give you my opinion, it's mostly to practice my enunciation and my reading skills, and just to, I don't know, get more confidence in my speech, because sometimes I stutter, sometimes I ramble. But yeah, so I wanted it to be very chilled. I wanted to give my opinion. I wanted you guys to get to know me a little bit, and my predictions with writing stories, reading stories, and yeah, it's just a relaxed way to go into the new week, a very chilled way to end the week and to start the new week, because like I said, Mondays give me quite a bit of anxiety and they freak me out a little bit. And yeah, so I thought this would be a nice, chilled, relaxed way to go into the new week, and so we can laugh together and have fun together. Yay! So the book that I decided to read to you is the third book of the Bartimaeus series. When I started reading, I never read Harry Potter. Shocking, I know. I only started reading Harry Potter in 2017. So this was my introduction into fantasy, and I thought it would be a fun way to start the series. So it's the Bartimaeus Trilogy by Jonathan Stroud. I think this is the third book in the series, in the trilogy. And I got it in 2007, see? So I'm going to read you the first chapter. And yeah, it's going to be fun and a relaxed way and everything. Something that I do need to tell you about this book, Bartimaeus is one of our narrators. He's a demon, and it's the only book I've ever seen that actually has this. He's got little footnotes where he gives comments and stuff. Hi. I'm doing a video, so I'm gonna start reading. Alexandria, 125 BC. The assassins dropped into the palace grounds at midnight. 4 fleet shadows dark against the wall. The fall was high, the ground was hard. They made no more sound on impact than the pattering of rain. 3 seconds they crouched there, low and motionless, sniffing at the air. Then away they stole, through the dark gardens, among the tamarisks and date palms, towards the quarters where the boy lay at rest. A cheetah on a chain stirred in its sleep. Far away in the desert, jackals cried. They went on pointed toe tips, leaving no trace in the long wet grass. The ropes flitted at their backs, fragmenting their shadows into wisps and traces. What could be seen? Nothing but leaves shifting in the breeze. What could be heard? Nothing but the wind sighing among the palm fronds. I don't know what a fronds is. No sight, no noise. A crocodile gin, standing sentry at the sacred pool, was undisturbed, though they passed within a scale's breadth of its tail. For humans, it wasn't badly done. The heat of the day was a memory. The air was chill. Above the palace, a cold round moon shone down, slathering silver across the roofs of the courtyards. And then this is our first footnote. This is one of the peculiarities of their sect. They acted only when the moon was full. They made their tasks more difficult, their challenge greater. They had never failed. Aside from this, they wore only black, avoided meat, wine, women, and the playing of wind instruments, and curiously ate no cheese, save that made from the milk of goats, bred on their distant desert mountain. Before each job they fasted for a day, meditated by staring unblinkingly at the ground, then ate small cakes of hashish and cumin seed, without water until their throats glowed yellow. It's a wonder how they ever killed anyone. This was one of my favorite things about Bartimaeus. He's actually quite a funny narrator, and I love his little footnotes because, like I said, he's very funny. Away beyond the wall, the great city murmured in the night. Wheels on dirt roads, distant laughter from the pleasure district along the quay. It's quay. I keep running to read it as quay, but that's just a fun little quirk of mine. It's quay, I think. The tide lapping at its stones. Lamplight shone in windows, embers glowed on the roof of hearths, and from the top of the tower beside the harbour gate the great watchfire burned its message out to the sea. Its image danced like implight on the waves. At their posts the guards played games of chance. In the pillared halls the servants slept on beds of rushes. The palace gates were locked by triple bolts, each thicker than the man. No eyes turned to the western gardens, where death came calling, secret as a scorpion, on 4 pairs of silent feet. The boy's window was on the first floor of the palace. 4 black shadows hunched beneath each wall. 4 black shadows hunched beneath the wall. The leader made a signal. One by one they pressed against the stonework. One by one they began to climb, suspended by their fingertips and the nails of their big toes. All horrid and curved they were, filed sharp like eagles' talons. The assassins took good care of their feet because of their importance in their work. They were washed frequently, rubbed with pumice, and marinated in sesame oil until the skin was soft as eider down. Lots of big words in this book that I'm pretty sure 12, 13-year-old me didn't really understand. In this manner they had scaled the marble columns and waterfalls of ice Massalia to 𝚁𝚎𝚊𝚑. Through the stone blocks were easy to follow them now. What? The rough stone blocks were easy for them now. Up they went like bats upon a cave wall. Moonlight glinted on bright things suspended in their mouths. The first of the assassins reached the window ledge. He sprang tiger-like upon it and peered into the chamber. Moonlight spilled across the room. The pallet was lit as if by the day. The boy lay sleeping, motionless as one already dead. His dark hair fell loose upon the cushions. His pale lamb's throat shone against the silks. The assassin took the dagger from between his teeth. With quiet deliberation, he surveyed the room, gauging its extent and the possibility of traps. It was large, shadowy, empty of ostentation. 3 pillars supported the ceiling. In the distance stood a door of teak barred on the inside. A chest, half filled with clothes, sat open against the wall. He saw a royal chair draped in discarded cloak, sandals laying on the floor, and an onyx basin filled with water. A faint trace of perfume hung on the air. The assassin, for whom each sense were decadent and corrupt, wrinkled his nose. The sect avoided perfumes for practical reasons, preferring to coat themselves with scents appropriate for the conditions of each job: pollen in the gardens, incense of the temples, sand dusts in the desert, dung and offal. I know what offal is, but I keep reading it as an Afrikaans word. and I thought it was an Afrikaans word, turns out I'm wrong, offal in the towns. They were dedicated fellows. His eyes narrowed. He reversed the dagger, holding it between finger and thumb by its shining, gleaming tip. It quivered once, twice. He was gauging the range here. He'd never missed a target yet. From the Carthage of old 𝚠𝚎𝚊𝚑, every knife he'd thrown had found its throat. His wrist flickered. The silver arc of the knife's flight cut in the air in two. It landed with a soft noise, held deep in the cushion, an inch from the child's neck. The assassin paused in doubt, still crouched upon the sill. The back of his hands bore criss-cross scars that marked him as adept of the Dark Academy. An apt never missed his target. The throw had been exact, precisely calibrated, yet it had missed. Has the victim moved a crucial fraction? Impossible. The boy was fast asleep. From his person he pulled a second dagger. I won't say where he pulled it from. Let's just say that the knife had hygiene issues as well as being quite sharp. Another careful aim. The assassin was conscious of his brothers behind and below him on the wall. He felt the grim weight of their impatience. A flick of the wrist, a momentary arc. With the soft noise, the second dagger landed in the cushion, an inch to the other side of the prince's neck. As he slept, perhaps he dreamed. A smile twitched ghost-like at the corners of his mouth. Behind the black gauze of the scarf of the masked face, the assassin frowned. From within his tunic he drew the strip of fabric, twined it tightly into a cord. In 7 years since the hermit had ordered his first kill, his garrote, it's another word that I absolutely hate, his garrote had never snapped, his hands had never failed him. The hermit of the mountain trained his followers in numerous methods of foolproof murder. They could use garrotes, swords, knives, batons, ropes, poisons, discs, bolas, pellets, and arrows inimitably, as well as being pretty handy with the evil eye. Death by fingertip and toe flicks was also taught. What do you think a death by toe flicks is? Do you think a toe just goes like, the furtive nip was a specialty. Stomach threads and tapeworms were available for advanced students, and the best of it was it was all guilt-free. Each assassination was justified and condoned by the powerful religious disregard for the sanctity of other people's lives. With leopard stealth, he slid from the sill and stole across the moonlit floor. In his bed, the boy murmured something. He stirred beneath this sheet. The assassin froze rigid. There's an ant on me. The assassin froze rigid, a black statue in the center of the room. Behind the window, two of his companions insinuated themselves upon the sill. They waited, watching. The boy gave a little sigh and fell silent once more. He lay face up amongst his cushions, a dagger's hilt protruding on either side. 7 seconds passed. The assassin moved again. He stole round behind the cushions, looping the ends of the cord around his hands. Nai was directly above the child. He bent swiftly, set the cord upon the sleeping throat. The boy's eyes opened. He reached up a hand and grasped the assassin's left wrist, and without exertion, swung himself headfirst into the nearest wall, snapping his neck like a reed stalk. He flung off his silken sheet, and with a bound stood free, facing the window. Upon the sill, silhouetted against the moon, two assassins hissed like rock snakes. Their comrade's death was an affront on their collective pride. One plucked from his robe a pipe of bone from a cavity between his teeth and sucked a pellet, eggshell thin, filled with poison. He set the pipe to his lips, blew once, the pellet shot across the room, directed at the child's heart. The boy gave a skip. The pellet shattered against a pillar, spattering it with a liquid. A plume of green vapor drizzled through the air. The two assassins leapt into the room, one this way, the other that. Each now held a scimitar in his hand. They spun them in complex flourishes about their heads, dark eyes scanning the room. The boy was gone. The room was still. Green poison nibbled at the pillar, each of the stones fizzed with it. Never once in 7 years, from Antox to Pergamum, had the assassins lost a victim. They didn't intend to start now. The hermit was known to be pretty sniffy about disciples who returned in failure. There was a wall in the institute laid with their skins, an ingenious display in which encouraged vigor in his students, as well as nicely keeping out the drafts. Drafts? Drafts, not drafts. I've lost my place. Oh, there we go. Their arms stopped moving. They slowed their pace, listening intently, tasting the air from the taint of fear. From behind a pillar in the center of the room came the faintest scuffling, like a mouse flinching in its bed of straw. The assassins glanced at each other. Ghost. Oh, there we go. Nope, I've still lost my place. Hang on. Give me a second. Oh, they inched forwards. Toe tip by toe tip, scimitars raised. One went to the right, past the crumpled body of his fellow. One went to the left, beside the golden chair, draped with the cloak of kings. They moved like ghosts around the margins of the room, circling in upon the pillar from both sides. Behind the pillar, a furtive movement, a boy's shape hiding in the shadows. Both assassins saw it. Both raised their scimitars. I have to find out what a scimitar is, because I don't know. In my head, I think it's like those sickle things that they use to cut the grass. It could be like one of those sickle things on a long staff. I have to double check. And darted in, from left, from right, both struck with mantis speed. A dual cry, gargling and ragged. From around the pillar came a stumbling, rolling mess of arms and legs. The two assassins locked together in tight embrace, each one skewered on the other's sword. Maybe it's one of those like swords from Aladdin, you know, the one that's like curved and it's like long pointed and it's got that weird little hook. That's what I'm thinking a scimitar is. They fell forwards into a pool of moonlight in the center of the chamber, twitched gently and lay quiet. Silence. The windowsill hung vacant, nothing in it but the moon. A cloud passed across the bright round disk, blacking out the bodies on the floor. The signal fire in the harbour tower cast faint redness on the sky. All was still. The cloud drifted out to sea. The light returned. From behind the pillar walked a boy, bare feet soundless on the floor, his body stiff and weary as if he sensed pressure in the room. With careful steps he neared the window. Slowly, slowly, closer, closer. He saw the shrouded mass of gardens, the trees and the sentry towers. He noticed the texture of the sill and the way the moonlight caught its contours. Closer. Now his hands rested on the stone itself. He leaned forwards to look down into the courtyard at the bottom of the wall. His thin white throat extended out. Nothing. The courtyard was empty. The walls below was sheer and smooth, its stones picked out by moonlight. The boy listened to the quietness. He tapped his fingers on the sill. shrugged, and turned inside. Then the fourth assassin, clinging like a thin black spider to the stones above the window, dropped down behind him. His feet made the noise of feathers falling into snow. The boy heard. He twisted, turned. A knife flashed, swiped, and was deflected by a desperate hand. Its edge clinked against stone. Iron fingers grappled the boy's neck. His legs were knocked from under him. He fell, landing hard upon the floor. The assassin's weight was on him. His hands were pinioned. He could not move. The knife descended. This time it hit its mark. So it had finished as it must. Crouching above the body of the boy, the assassin allowed himself a breath. His first since his colleagues had met their end. He sat back on his sinewy haunches, loosened his grip on the knife, and let the boy's wrist drop free. He inclined his head on the traditional mark of respect to the fallen victim, at which point the boy reached up and plucked the knife from the center of his chest. The assassin blinked in consternation. "Not silver, you see," the boy said. "Mistake." He raised his hand. An explosion in the room. Green sparks cascaded from the window. The boy rose to his feet and tossed the knife upon the pallet. He adjusted his kilt and blew off some flakes of ash from off his arms. Then he coughed loudly. The faintest of scrapings. Across the room the golden chair shifted. The cloak draped over it was nudged aside. Out from between its legs scrambled another boy, identical to the first, though flushed and tousled from the many hours of hiding. He stood over the bodies of the assassins, breathing hard. Then he stared up at the ceiling. On it was the blackened outline of a man. It had kind of a startled look. The boy lowered his gaze to the impassive doppelganger, watching him across the moonlit room. I gave a mock salute. Ptolemy brushed the dark hair from his eyes and bowed. "Thank you, 𝚁𝚎𝚅𝚑," he said. I'm not sure if it's 𝚁𝚑. I can't remember. There is a pronunciation guide somewhere, I think, if I remember right. Apparently I'm wrong. Oh, wait. Yes. Never mind, there is no pronunciation guide. So that was the first chapter of Ptolemy's Gate of the Bartimaeus Trilogy by Jonathan Stroud. It was I think the first book that really brought me into fantasy. It's quite a thick book. I wouldn't say it's for kids, really. I haven't read it in a very long time, and it used to be one of my favorites. But Jonathan Stroud's characters are absolutely amazing. Bartimaeus is an hilarious narrator. There are magicians in here, so there is magic, there's demons, there's a whole bunch of different magic segments, or not segments, different kind of magicians, and there's commoners. It's kind of like Harry Potter, except I think it's a little bit more complicated, and I really did enjoy it. And if you want to read it, I'll leave the link to the Goodreads profile, and that's it. So thank you so much for joining me. It wasn't very interesting, but I do hope you enjoyed my very terrible reading, and I hope you'll join me for the next one. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a good week. Bye.